if you're watching the replay, you can purchase the terms that I'm talking about on my website at www.thewealthyrevologist.com product section. And it will be titled Pricing Terms for Hair Extension Businesses. And it's $5 because the theme is 5 at 5. Again, you can purchase any of the products that I talk about on my live at 4 or 5 at my website at thewealthyrevologist.com. So those of you who want to come on in, I'll let you come on in. Today we will be talking about pricing. We will be talking about pricing. Come on in the room. Hi GIS Lover. Hi LS Smith. Hi Shishi Hodges. Hi Jasmine Gibson. How you doing, guys? It's cold in here, so I decided to throw on my jacket. You're going to be seeing this G jacket all week. Hi everybody. Today I'm going to talk about pricing for the whole week. I'm going to try to come on for 3 days. And I was telling those of you who will be watching the replay that I have the terms and things that I'm talking about in the live. I will have that available for purchase after the video post. So it's not on my website right now, but it will be posted later after this post. So, hi. Oh, you're from Wisconsin? We got somebody from Wisconsin in the building. Where is everybody else from? Hi, Jennifer Coles. I don't know anybody from Wisconsin. Now I do. I appreciate you coming in. I know you're on a different time zone. Okay, we have East St. Louis. All right. Houston, Texas. Michigan in the building. Okay. Got some people from the Midwest. We got people from the South, I guess you would say. Yeah, Texas is the South. All right. Okay. Okay, we got someone else. LL Smith is from St. Louis. Okay. All right. Well, you know, I'm on the East Coast. I'm in North Carolina right now. So, again, I appreciate those of you who are... Okay, my neighbor's in here. Okay. Columbia, South Carolina. All right. Let's see, who else we got? STL. Okay. So we got the Midwest, we got the South, and we got the Carolinas. Okay, cool. Okay. Christy M is from Mississippi. Okay. All right. Okay. So I think that's everybody. So I'm glad that you guys could attend today because I'm going to talk about a topic that's very, very popular. A lot of people want to talk about this topic. That's going to take us all week to talk about this topic because it's very detailed, but it's not hard to talk about pricing and things like that. But tonight I want to talk about the terms. I want to start off with some things that you should consider when pricing your hair. Again, because most of you know me, but if you do not know me, my name is Rochelle. My channel is called The Wealthy Revologist. I source hair from overseas. That's my niche. Remember we talked about targeting last week and yesterday? Well, that's my niche. And because we are sourcing hair from overseas, it costs a little money. Okay? It costs a little money. Jennifer Coles. Well, tell Zamir hello. He's a Hi Zamir. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I have a fan, okay? I have a 7-year-old fan. But tonight, that's why we're talking about pricing, because it's one of those things that is really, 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 really hard to get down. So I want to talk about that tonight. Again, if this is your first time joining me, my niche is sourcing hair from overseas. I talk about Alibaba.com. I talk about different websites, DHgate, all of those websites, so that we can purchase hair wholesale, so that we can take our hair, our wholesale hair, and price it for retail so we can make money. Okay? I think we're all on the same page with that one. Okay, so last week, okay, last week we talked about targeting. Now, the reason why I'm kind of going, it may seem like I'm going all over the place, but bear with me, okay? When you are going overseas and sourcing products, you want to know what products you're going to source, right? So that's why I started talking about the targets that we're going to talk about. So we talked about the targets. So when we go to Alibaba.com, we know what hair we're going to source. So if you missed what we were talking about last week, I'm just going to briefly touch on that. We talked about different age ranges. Based on the different age ranges, it's going to determine the types of hair that we potentially are going to go on DHgate, Alibaba, whatever website you want to find your hair from. That's where we're going to source our hair based on. So we talked about grooming practices and all of that. But basically we all agreed that the younger girls probably are going to want the lower, I don't want to say the cheapest of the cheap. I hope you didn't assume that that's what I meant. But, the colorful hair, the blonde hair, the long hair, okay? The trendy hair, okay? Versus someone who's a little bit more of age, 30s. Some professions, they frown upon having bright, colorful hair. So maybe that's your target demographic. And you would source hair that looks kind of like mine or straight. Some women prefer longer hair. Some women prefer shorter hair, like a bob or something. Okay? So we talked about all that. Okay? So when we go to our websites and we source hair, most of us are kind of in the middle of starting our businesses. I know last time we had people on the chat who were already established in their business. Some of you, most of you, if you're not established, you're making those steps to become established, okay? Yes, the young girls want 30-inch hair. That's true, Chris. So when we establish our businesses, some of y'all are in the planning phases and you're trying to get all this data. You're watching my videos, you're watching everybody else's videos, and you want to get that information together. So that's why we're talking about pricing today. So one of the key things that most people don't consider, of course, when you think prices, you think price list, right? You think the price list when you contact the vendors, you get the price list. But before we get to that, I'm going to get to that. But before we get to the price list from the vendors and all that, we need to think about our overhead, okay? Give me a 1 if you know what overhead means. If you don't, that's fine. But if you know what overhead means, hit 1. If you do not know, hit 2. It's okay if you don't know what overhead means. So for those of you in the chat that know what overhead means, give me a 1. For those of you who do not know what overhead means, give me a 2. Okay. Jennifer, that's cool. If you're just starting out, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. So I have a couple of ones, I have a couple of twos, and that's fine. If you don't know what it is, I will tell you tonight. That's what we're here for. Okay? I got a couple of ones, got a couple of twos. Okay. Okay, cool. So that's cool because I need to gauge on where we all are. Okay. So basically, overhead means the expenses that are generated by your business. Okay. Now, this not necessarily labor. This is labor, like labor costs or everything like that. It's basically your expenses. Okay, so those of you who are unfamiliar with overhead means, in a nutshell, those are your expenses. So what does that mean exactly for you and your hair business? Well, those of you who want to sell hair online, okay, what you want to do is think about your website, whether you're using Wix or you're using Shopify, you're using Big Cartel, you're using whatever website platform you're using, okay? There's fees associated with that, okay? So those will be considered your business fees, okay? Because you're going to post, if you have a website, if you don't have a website and you're in the planning phase, that would be considered one type of expense, okay? If you have a separate business phone line, okay, that would be considered an expense. So, if you're going to use that for customer service purposes or things like that, there are some websites that also, part of their package, they will also give you let's say your company is called Great Bundles. So you can purchase, or it's included in your package that you buy, your monthly package or whatever, your monthly fees. Those are your fixed fees that don't change. So typically Wix will charge you a fee, or Shopify will charge you a fee, and they'll charge you like for the email, and all of that. And we'll talk about business websites and things like that. But I want you to get in the idea of what your expenses are, Carla. And if you have any questions after this, I will answer some questions if you have any at the end. So those are your business expenses. So phone lines. If you have a brick and mortar store, I don't know if any of you have a brick and mortar store, but if you do, that would be your lease payment. And we're talking about monthly expenses. And it's fine if you're using Shopify, you're using Wix, you're using Squarespace. There's different types of websites. So it's fine. You don't have to have a fancy website right now. But if you're in the planning phases, make sure you write that down as an expense, okay? So your business line, your phone line, that's an expense. Any taxes that you're going to pay. Now, sometimes of course, you may not know those up front right now, but you want to set some money off to the side, because a lot of people ask me, how much capital do you need to run your business? Because you're going to be self-employed, you're going to have to put, pay taxes. Now, I'm not a tax professional. That's not my expertise. But you may want to set some money off to the side for that as well. However, your main expenses associated with running your business is going to be your overhead, okay? Also, those of you who are using Square, if you're using Wix, not Wix, Square, Stripe, who else? PayPal. Some of those fees associated with running your business are also considered your overhead. So again, any fees that you are incurring when using all of these different things to run your business, those are your fees. Because back in the day, it was like credit card fees, batching fees, all those little random fees. You would include those in your expenses, because some of those expenses, those costs, are fixed costs. So your fixed costs, they really don't change, okay? That would be considered your overhead, okay? You want to consider that. So even packaging, Those of you who want to use fancy packaging, satin bags, all of that, that would be considered your overhead. So usually you're going to buy those in bulk, right? So you're probably going to buy the same amount per month. So we're talking about per month. So let's say you want to buy satin bags from your overseas, because you can buy those overseas as well. You can get those from AliExpress if you want to. But those types of products, that would be your business expense. So that goes into, I don't know if you've heard me say this before, but sometimes all of those fancy packaging can make your price of your hair bundle go up. So keep that in mind. Those of you who are trying to do the fancy packaging and things like that, keep that in mind, because that can make your hair a little bit more pricier. Okay? So going back to our demographics, who we are selling hair to. So for example, if you were selling hair to a younger demographic, if your starting price of your bundle is a little pricey, and then you start adding on the bundle wraps and the satin bags and the fancy website and all this extra stuff, that could make your price go up higher. So keep that in mind, and we'll touch on that as well. So everybody understand at this point what overhead means. Okay? Are we on the same page? Give me a smiley face emoji if we're all on the same page with overhead, what overhead means. Okay. Jennifer, we cool? Because I know you asked if we were all on the same page. Okay. We're all on the same page. Okay, cool. All right. So we talked about overhead. So those are the things that you want to consider before we start pricing our hair. So also, you want to think about any other things that affect the price of your hair. So I'm going to look over to my notes over here, because I want to make sure I get everything in today. But basically, we are all on the same page when it comes to overhead. Now, there's other things in overhead, but for the most part, that's essentially what we're going to cover when it comes to overhead. It's not that difficult. It's basically everything's cool. Okay, everything's all in that same overhead. Okay, your expenses. Okay, now when you were talking about, say, we'll say your fixed costs. Those are your fixed costs. Those your expenses, they don't change. Okay, your fixed costs. Okay, so when I talked about your expenses, those are your monthly expenses. Okay, and we'll talk about the vendor search and all of that once we cover all of this. So Jennifer will talk about that as well. Then you want to think about, and this is something that some of you may just be starting out with, you want to think about the number of sales, potentially, those of you who have not made any sales yet, you want to think about your potential number of sales. Now, let's look at a bundle of hair. Typically, when people purchase a bundle of hair from you, they're not going to purchase just one bundle. They're going to purchase maybe 2 bundles, okay, maybe 3, but typically the average is 2 bundles. So they're going to purchase 2 bundles from you, okay? So if you anticipate, okay, someone purchasing 2 bundles from you, that would be the number of sales, okay? So one sale would be 2 bundles, right? So one for us, most people wouldn't just buy one frontal or one closure. They might, but just for the sake of this conversation, most people, if they're going to buy something from you, they're going to buy 2 bundles. But for us, 2 bundles would be considered one sale, okay? So to get an idea of your fixed costs, okay, I'm going to go in detail as the week goes on, but I want us to be on the same page. To get an idea of your fixed costs, we are going to divide, okay, we're going to divide our monthly overhead. So we took all of our expenses for the month, and we added them all up, and we're going to divide it by the number of sales that we anticipate. Now, your number of sales will be different than the next person's number of sales. So that would be your fixed cost. So we're going to put that to the side right now. So that would be your minimum cost of what your products would be, for you to cover the bare basis. You're not gonna make a profit, okay? You're not gonna make a profit. The reason why I'm doing it like this is because some people will price their hair like that, and that's it. They don't consider every other thing that we're gonna talk about tonight. So that would be your bare basic price that you would sell for that one sale, okay? Of course, you're gonna charge more than that, okay? You're gonna add your profit margins and everything like that. But basically, that would be that's your base without making a profit or anything. That's the minimum cost your products should be priced at. We're not going to stop there, okay? Because we're not going to make a profit with that, okay? Now, the main thing, I started off with materials. I started off with overhead because I want to talk about materials. I want to talk about the bundle costs, okay? A lot of people ask me about the price of bundles, how much the bundle should be. Again, that depends on the type of hair that you are going to source. That depends on the vendor. That depends on a lot of different things, okay? So let's talk about it. So your material will be your wholesale price. So the wholesale price, okay, is the price on the price list, okay? So when you look at your price list, I wish I had a printout price list, but everybody has seen a hair vendor price list, right? Everybody knows what a price list looks like, correct? Okay. All right. So when we look at our price list, you want to make sure that that is just the wholesale price. That's it. Okay, I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. That's just the wholesale price. Some vendors also charge for a wave pattern. So remember last week when I was talking about steam processed hair and all that, some vendors, they're on their price list. That is just for the straight hair. When you get to the bottom of your price list, you get all the way down to the bottom, sometimes it'll say add $2 or add $3 or add $5 for body wave or deep wave. Okay? Some vendors do that, and that's normal because they have to process it. Keep in mind your Chinese vendors, typically Chinese vendors will do that, and that's normal because they are also adding their profit to it as well. Okay, so that is the reason why I want you to contact manufacturers versus dealers. Okay, they're gonna put their profit on it anyway. Okay, keep that in mind. They're gonna look out for their best interest. However, make sure when you look at your price list, we'll look at the Chinese vendor, for example, because I know a lot of people are using Chinese vendors, and that's fine. When you look at your price list from your Chinese vendor, at the bottom, make sure you read that stuff at the bottom. Sometimes it will say add $2, add $5, add this, amount if you wanted kinky curly, or if you wanted body wave, or you wanted something else. They have their own version of small print at the bottom. So when we look at it, usually it's for one piece. Okay, let's think of it as a bundle. So when you look at your price list, you are either going to see 100 grams. Okay, you're either going to see some companies use pieces. Every now and then I'll see piece. Okay, I very rarely see ounces. We use ounces in the United States, but typically when you're dealing with overseas vendors, they're going to use grams. So you might see 100 grams, you might see a little over 100 grams when you're looking at your price list. But typically, when you look at your price list, it's going to be one bundle. Okay, that's the price for one piece, one bundle. Now, some vendors, because you are purchasing wholesale, they are going to charge you. Some vendors will tell you, okay, this is the price if you buy under, say, 10 pieces. Okay, some vendors, various vendors have different price lists, but some vendors will say if you buy under 10 grams, this is the price for one piece. If you buy over 10 grams, this is the price for one piece. Typically, most of you, because if this is a new vendor, you know, I always tell people to get your sample hair, get your initial hair, quality control, get the quality, make sure your vendor is giving you quality products, okay? So we're not purchasing kilos of hair from a first-time vendor. If we've never bought hair from this vendor, you're not purchasing kilos and kilos and kilos of hair. We're not doing that. I'm sure we're on the same page, okay? So if you get a price list like that, where they're saying, okay, this is the price for 10 bundles or less, or 10 pieces, they typically don't use the word bundle. They usually say pieces or grams or something like that. We are looking at a price list and we're looking at one bundle. So for your lower quality hair, again, some price lists will tell you. Now, when you contact your vendor, depending on what type of hair you're trying to source, sometimes also, I'm gonna have to do a video on how to read price lists. In that price list, sometimes they'll tell you, okay, this is our, sometimes they'll say this is our cuticle aligned hair. Some of them will say this is our 80% cuticle aligned hair. And this is our, 100% human hair, which is probably their lower quality hair. So some vendors will give you a choice, okay? So depending on who your target demographic is, that is who you are, that's the price you are going to use to determine the price per bundle, okay? So most of you may have already found a vendor, you may have already done all this, but look at your price per bundle, okay? Or if you're doing frontals and closures, if you're doing a frontal, look at the price per piece. Usually they'll say piece for the frontals. Look at that price. That's your wholesale price now. Look at the price for your closure. Or some of you may be sourcing full wigs. So if the full wig is, say, $100, you're going to price that wholesale bundle. Once you get the hair, you're going to price it for your profit, okay? So you're not going to just add $10 to it because you have a overhead to consider, okay? And we got to get up over that overhead so that we can make a profit, okay? So we're all on the same page. Okay, cool. I want to break it down. I'm starting slow, then break it down. Okay, so when you take that price, okay, you also want to add on your PayPal fees. Okay, you want to add your PayPal fees as well. Now, I recommend using PayPal when you first start out because you have some leeway of getting your money back just in case a vendor doesn't send you your product. So you probably would not use Western Union when you're dealing with a new vendor. However, if you deal with your vendor for a long time, hey, that's your business. But you must include that into your material cost. So this is our material. This is the products that we're using for our business. This is the main product. Okay. So you also, depending on how many bundles you're purchasing, let's say you're purchasing 2 bundles or whatever, you would divide that PayPal cost amongst the bundles that you are purchasing from your vendor. So your Chinese vendor, your Vietnamese vendors, Southeast Asian vendors, your Indian vendors, the same process. Okay? So that's what kind of hair is it that smells exactly like your hair has been burnt. I'm not sure, Jennifer. I don't know what's up with burnt hair. If you are sampling hair from a vendor and it smells burnt, that means that it's been over processed Usually hair smells burnt when remember when people use hot combs and the hot comb is too hot? Maybe they're processing the hair too high, or they are using some type of chemical that's damaging the hair shaft. Because it shouldn't smell burnt like that. And that's also a good question, because when you are sampling hair products, you definitely want to make sure if it stinks, don't sell it to your customer. Okay? And we're going to talk about labor costs, because if you got to do so much to that hair, it's not worth it. You're not gonna make a profit, because you're working. You're giving yourself a job by trying to defunk some hair. Okay, so anyway, we're all on the same page with overhead. We're all on the same page with our material costs. So you want to include also the shipment fees, the DHL fees, the FedEx fees, all of those fees that they're charging you. So it could be $25 to $35. It depends on how much hair you are sourcing from your vendors. Okay, so it depends on how much hair you are sourcing from your vendors. So let's say you're ordering a kilo of hair, that's going to be more expensive. So you need to add that to the kilo. And kilos depends, but usually that's 10 bundles of hair. Okay, you would not do that. That's not your main purchase when you first start buying hair from a vendor, because you don't know if the hair is good or not. So don't do that, okay, until you have an established vendor. So our overhead is our fixed costs, our costs that never change, our website fees, all of that every month is the same price. Your cell phone that you're using for your business, or if you're using a business line or whatever for your business, all of that, if you have a brick and mortar store, all of that is considered your overhead. Your material cost is your hair, your weave, your tracks, your bundles, your closures, your frontals. That is your material. Plus, don't forget the PayPal fees, the DHL fees, the Western Union fees, all of those fees, okay? You must consider those. Do not forget those, okay? Don't forget those, okay? So I think we're all on the same page with that. Now, I'm looking at my notes because I don't want to leave anything out. So we talked about overhead. We talked about our fixed costs. Okay? Let's see. Then you want to think about your other additional fees that you're going to incur. Okay? So when we're talking about pricing our hair, like I said, I would talk about labor costs. This is something that people don't want to talk about because it changes for everybody. When you first start your business, you may not think about this, but I tend to think about stuff like this. When you work your 9-to-5 job, okay, you get paid. Okay, you get paid. You get an hourly rate. Okay, so when you get an hourly rate at your job, since you are physically working at your hair business, potentially you're going to have to somewhat make a profit to pay yourself. So if you are, say, you're going to the the DHL hub to pick up your hair. You're going to UPS to pick up your hair. You're also marketing and advertising. Also, I forgot to tell you that marketing and all of that will also go into your overhead. I forgot to mention that. But you're actually working at your business. Now, keep this at a decent rate. Some people may be tempted to say, well, I want to make $40 an hour. But let's be realistic. When you first start your business, you probably aren't working that many hours at your business. But you have to keep in mind that you are putting some labor into running your business, right? So you want to think about the hours that you work, and you want to think about a decent hourly rate, okay? So Jennifer and Carla, have y'all thought about your hourly rate that you would potentially pay yourself? How many hours, Carla, have you spent on your business? Because that's something we need to consider as well when we are pricing our hair. Did y'all think about that? Okay? Now, typically, you're a one-man show, you're a one-woman show, but kind of think about, so how many hours would you say, Carla and Jennifer, have you spent on actually, if you have not, and when I mean hourly, I mean actually moving your product, putting your product in your bags, getting your product from your DHL hub, all of that. At least 5 a day. Okay. I thought about taking half of my profit as my salary and putting the other half back into the business. That's cool. It depends. It depends on your overall goals for your business. If you are doing your business to just supplement your income, or are you doing your business to potentially take over your 9-to-5 job and be something that you can live off of? Of course, you have to work up to that. That's not going to happen overnight, but that's something that you can consider. Okay, Carla is still in the developmental phase. Okay, that's cool. But this is just definitely something, when you do your business plan, this is definitely something that those of you who are doing that, you can definitely put that down on your business plan as your proposed hourly rate. Okay, you guys? So your hours of work time, your hourly rate, divide that by your hair, the units of hair, the bundles, the frontals, the closures, okay? And that would be the labor per unit. So don't beat yourself over the head with that, but keep that in mind. You have to make some type of, those of you that want to sell raw hair and things like that, well, it's going to take time to process that hair. It's going to take time to, wash that hair, do all that hair. Some of y'all want to sell raw Indian hair. Yeah, you got to go through that hair. Some of it might have, split ends and things like that. So you really want to keep that in mind when you're pricing your hair as well. So these are just things to consider for those of you who are thinking about, I see some people are thinking about using it to supplement their income. Some of you are also using it to potentially take over your 9-to-5. Of course, that's going to take time, but I wanted to put that out there because sometimes we skip over that part. You don't want to make this an expensive hobby. You actually want to make somewhat of a profit. Of course, someone mentioned that they were going to put some of the profit back into your business. That is definitely smart, okay? And for those of you who have generated some income from your business, make sure that you are working towards putting that money into a business bank account. Okay, so it's separate, because if it's all commingled with your personal money, you're more tempted to dip into that. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right, so we talked about our overhead. We talked about our material costs. Keep in mind, that's the price of your hair plus your shipment fees that it takes to get to you, your DHL, your UPS. And then we talked about our labor costs. So that's associated with you, putting the hair in the bundles and all of that. So basically, you have to think about how much you would pay yourself, okay? So just an idea. And it's a sliding scale, so you're going to have to figure that out for yourself, okay? I can't give you that number. That's something that you have to determine for yourself. Okay? So let's look at something that might be a challenge for some of you, especially when you are starting out with your vendors. So, and Ebony, we'll talk about that once we get to the end of this live stream. I'll talk about the different vendor issues and stuff you may have. But I want you to know about the shipment expenses. Now, when you're contacting your vendors, sometimes they give you a choice, sometimes they don't give you a choice. Now, a lot of people ask me, well, the shipment fees are expensive. Keep in mind, especially if you're in the United States, we're sourcing hair from overseas, okay? We're sourcing hair from Asia. So we're in the United States, we're getting hair from Asia, okay, you guys? So it's gonna be expensive. However, if you look at, say, the weight of your hair, like when you, let's back up. Let me dip into my vendor search bag for a second. Okay, I don't want to complicate things, but let me jump into my vendor search bag. In the beginning, when you're communicating with potential vendors, okay, when you are communicating with potential vendors, if you see a vendor that you like, you look at the price list and everything like that, right? Find out from your vendor before you start sending them any money, okay? Find out from your vendor, A, the courier that they're using, okay? B, how much the shipment cost is going to be. So if you've gotten your price quote, you've looked at your prices, you've done all this, you thought about your expenses, you're like, okay, I know my monthly expenses, so I have an idea of my monthly expenses, okay? So Jennifer, when you look at your monthly expenses and you look at all of your overhead, you look at the price list from these vendors that you're going to research, and then you look at, okay, how much you potentially want to pay yourself. Now, when I first started my business, I didn't look into paying myself for my business because I knew in the very beginning I wasn't going to make that much, because it's going to be slow. Okay, it's going to be slow. And keep in mind, I was a hairstylist, so I had another job. This was like on the side, okay? So before I even made a profit, to be honest with you, I didn't even think about labor costs. So that's why I'm throwing that out there for y'all to think about. But initially, it might be $10 an hour. It might be $9 an hour. I'm going to keep it real when you first start out, okay? So when you go, when you get further along, you can raise that price. But anyway, let's talk about these vendors. So when you contact your vendor, think about all of this stuff that you have to do when you got to pay. You have to pay your website fees and all this, right? So when you look at the shipment costs and you think about your overhead and you think about all your monthly expenses, if the shipment fees are too high to the point where you feel like, okay, this is overpricing me outside of my target demographic. Let's say you look at all of this and you do your math on your end, you do the math, and you're like, this is going to make my bundles $100 and some, okay? That's not going to be profitable for me if I'm selling to, let's say you're selling to 20-year-old girls. That's not going to be profitable for me. So you know what you would do? You'd move on to another vendor. Don't even sample from that vendor. Okay? There's so many vendors, you guys. So don't think that you can only contact one or two vendors. That's the purpose of asking for a price list, so that you can see what their prices are, so you can see the bundle, you can see the bundle price, the unit price, and you do the math, and you're like, you know what, I'm not even going to sample from that vendor because I'm not going to purchase hair from that vendor, because by the time I buy 4 or 5 or 6 bundles from this vendor and then price the hair for my business, it's not going to be feasible. Okay, you guys? So all of this goes together. All of this goes together. Your target, see how it's coming together? Okay, I'm back. I got a phone call, you guys. I'm sorry. So if you see me pause, that's why. But anyway, so it's all connected. Okay, you see how it's all connected? So if once you determine your target demographic, remember we talked about that last week, you decided what your potential price is. Now, before we get into more detail with the pricing, let's take a pause on the overhead and all of that. Let's go back to your competition. Let's talk about competition, okay? I want you to look at the hair vendors, not hair vendors overseas, but the hair companies in your area that are selling hair, okay? How much are they charging for their hair per bundle, okay? You're going to have to do a little research on this one. But this is also going to help you when we're talking about pricing. And we have all week to talk about this, so I don't want to keep this too wordy. But I really want you to focus on your competition as well. So does everybody know who their competition is that they are potentially competing with, even if you haven't started already? Because remember we talked about target demographics. So if you decided you were going to target young girls, who in your area is selling hair to teenagers or college students, if that was your target demographic that you determined? Or if you determine, okay, I'm going to sell a better quality hair. Okay? So in your demographic, it could be the beauty supply store. They do sell hair. They do sell bundle deals and everything like that. But it depends on what you're trying to do. If you are trying to sell hair locally, I would say yes, the beauty supply store is a potential competitor. Keep in mind that they are a bigger business and they can, they can take some leeway here. They're buying in kilos and kilos and kilos of hair. So their wholesale rate is going to be cheaper than yours initially. You're going to get there. You probably be able to open up your own beauty supply store. But initially, compared to them, you're considered a smaller business. So try to focus on other smaller businesses. Unless you are in a very small town and no one else is selling hair. But go online. Look at maybe some area hairstylists. You have to do some little research. If you know some girls in your area and they wear hair, try to find out where they get their hair from. If they're getting it online, find out who the online retailer is. Like I said, your target demographic. If they're young girls and you decided you want to sell to the younger crowd and you want to sell the blonde hair, the multicolored hair, that's your niche, that's your demographic. You decided you wanted to sell different kind of wigs, colorful wigs and things like that. Find out in your area who your competitor is. Even if it's online, but typically, remember last week we talked about hashtags? So if you were putting your hair online and offline, let's say you were putting it on Instagram and there's someone else in Texas. I know I have some people in Texas. If you are in the Midwest, in your city, who's the most popular person selling hair? They do AliExpress, okay? Well, locally too. Who's selling hair locally? See who your competition is. Because you might be surprised. But if you're selling hair to really young girls, your angle would probably be offline. Because, AliExpress is online. Now, you might have to do a little more research because a lot of times the reason why people are ordering hair off of AliExpress is because they can get it fast. So I know a lot of you are just starting out, But for some of you, especially if you live in small towns, you can do like a, I don't want to say you want to do a weave delivery service, because that's labor, that's extra labor. But you could potentially be a person in your area, especially if you live in a small town. This will probably only work if you live in a small town, but they'll purchase from you if you have some hair in stock, okay? And if you don't have hair in stock, over time, you, especially those of you who are hairstylists, I mentioned this last week, that you could say, hey, I have some hair there for them to look at, for them to touch, flat iron, all of that, and say, hey, you put in your order this week, next week your hair will be in. So you can do it like that. You get the money up front, you order the hair, and then they'll come to your salon, or you just drop off their hair. You could do that like that. In small towns, that works really well. Or if you're a hairstylist, that works really well. So you get their money up front, buy the hair from your vendor, and then distribute the hair. You're going to have a system in place to do all that, but that's something for those of you who want to fulfill a niche. You want to be like the hair person of your town, of your area, especially if you feel you're competing against beauty supply stores and things like that. Some people still would rather purchase from somebody, that they know, versus beauty supply store and all of that. So try that out. For those of you who still don't want to keep stock, you can do orders like that. Okay, that's what I used to do, so just putting that out there. Okay, someone said that in STL we have her imports, so that is one for me. Well, her imports is a chain actually. They have one in North Carolina. I think they have two, I want to say. But if that's your competitor, that's cool. Find out, go to their website and find out how much they charge. That's why I want you guys to look it up. Okay? So that you can kind of get an idea of how much you should charge if that's your target demographic. Okay? And again, most of you are in a research phase. So they give you a gauge on how you should price your hair, to give you an idea. I'm not saying that if someone's charging $50 that you should charge $50 too, but if the area vendors and things like that in your area, also use your hashtags on Instagram to see who's selling hair on Instagram in your area. Okay, keep in mind, like I said, you want to target using your hashtags as well. So if you are in STL hair bundles, STL hairstyles, and see what comes up, and see what those people are selling their hair for. Again, we don't have access to their bank accounts. Okay? We don't have access to their bank accounts, so we don't know if they're actually selling the hair, but you need an idea. And don't just look at one, look at 10. Okay? Look at a lot of them if you can. Okay, to get a gauge, because you don't want to outprice yourself outside of your target demographic, okay, to give you an idea. All right, so when you go to your vendors and you look at the wholesale prices and you think about your overhead costs and all of those other costs that we just talked about, you're not outpricing your hair. So if Keisha, the local hairstylist, is selling hair bundles to your target demographic, okay, she's selling hair bundles for, say, her shortest length, she's selling hair bundles for $60. We'll say that, okay. You don't want to price yours. Let's back up. Let's say she's selling her 14-inch bundles for, I don't know, $10. You don't want to price your hair that cheap, okay? But think about the prices that you would buy per bundle. Before you found out about starting a hair extension business, how much would you pay for a decent bundle, okay? That would kind of give you a gauge on your target demographic and what your target demographic is going to purchase from. Then you got to do your research online, okay? and find out who online is selling hair. I'm not saying you go and contact their followers and slide into their DMs and try to sell hair to them like that. That's not what I'm saying. But you want to price your hair at a competitive rate. You don't want to outprice yourself, okay? That's going to give you a gauge on how to sell your hair, what the price range to sell your hair for, okay? So you're not contacting raw hair vendors when you're selling to college students, okay? All right. So let's see. Shishi Hodges, them Arabs are high. What Arabs are selling hair, child? So let me know. Let me know, Shishi Hodges. Jennifer Coles, or should I say extensions, what is a good profit margin? We'll talk about that in a second. LS Smith online hair, it says her hairports is permanently closed. I don't know if her imports is closed. I don't really purchase hair from them. Shishi Hodges beauty supply stores. Oh, okay. You know what? There's one beauty supply store here that that purchases, what did they do? I think, you know what? I think they are Middle Eastern. Come to think, they're open on Sunday. So they are Middle Eastern, but they don't have anything in their hair store. So I only went in there one time. It was kind of weird. They met me at the door. Like, I don't like that kind of stuff. So, and that's another thing. A lot of people don't like dealing with beauty supply stores because they follow you. So if you live in an area like that, people are more apt to purchase hair from you because, you know, you look like them. You know, you could potentially have that niche to yourself because some people don't want to purchase products. Some people don't care, to be honest with you. And I would not suggest competing directly with the beauty supply store, you guys, because like I said, they are buying hair by the truckload. We're buying hair in small increments at this point, so they can afford to buy hair for cheap prices. But I want you guys to get an example of other hairstylists in your area who are selling hair. Other girls who are in your area selling hair and online in your area. Okay, not in general. We're not mass marketing, but in your area, in your city, in your town, who are on Instagram selling hair, to give you an idea. Now, some of these companies, depends on what they are, if they're open, because someone said one company was closed. I'm not sure, but don't just stop at one company, you guys. And look at least 10 to get a gauge. This is just to get a gauge of who your competitors are in your market, so you're not outpricing yourself. Okay? Okay, guys? So typically, when you're looking at your overhead and you're contacting your vendors, okay, if you, again, I want to stress this. I don't care if it's Indian temples, because yesterday someone got caught up on some temples. I don't care where it came from. If your hair is so expensive, once you consider all the overhead and everything like that, it may not sell because your prices are legitimately too high. Now, sometimes you could be targeting the wrong demographic and people will tell you that. But if the hair really is too high, you may be outpricing yourself, okay, for your target demographic. Remember, that's why we talked about target demographics and all of that. So I really want you guys to focus on your overhead. Don't neglect that. Also focus on reading your price list, your wholesale. We're talking about wholesale. Keep in mind, when I say wholesale, I'm talking about contacting overseas vendors, not American vendors. If you're in the United States, not American vendors. If you want to be able to price your hair, and I'll talk about drop shipping in a second, if you want to be able to price your hair at a decent rate, you need to contact wholesale vendors. Unless you just want to purchase hair for your own reasons, you want to make a wig here and there, and you're just doing this as a hobby or something like that, that's different. But since we're putting so much effort, we're putting so much work into sourcing hair from overseas, you definitely want to make sure that you are contacting manufacturers overseas for your hair. When you are this is the purpose of contacting vendors. If you're looking at your price list, okay? If you're looking at your price list and you're thinking about your overhead and you're thinking about all of that and you're considering all of that, and the price is too high, especially with the shipments, you're paying $25, $35 for shipments. If that's not feasible, especially those of you who want to do pre-sales, like you want to order 2-3 bundles and then send it to your customers like that, you may not be making money, may not be profitable for you if you are contacting a vendor to purchase for sampling reasons. Again, sample's not free. When we talk about sampling, that's not free. So when you're doing all that, make sure that you are dealing with a vendor that you can price your hair for a profit, okay? So if you are accounting for all of that, I said a lot, okay? But if you're accounting for all of that, you definitely want to make sure that if the vendor's too high, don't contact the vendor at all. Don't order hair from your vendor at all. If the prices are too high, don't cease communication with that vendor and move on to the next vendor. Don't spend so much time with 1 or 2 vendors. You need to contact as many as 10, you guys. You need to contact a lot of vendors. I talked about those of you who took my vendor search course. I talked about all that. And again, if you need information, if you need a consultation, if you need any of my products, that is available at thewealthyweavologist.com. Again, the $5 ebook that's concerning all of these terms will be available once this replay uploads. I'll put the information in the description box. I'll also put the information in my website under products. So for those of you who purchase the marketing strategies, that also is available for $5. And what I'm talking about, the pricing and all of those terms, will be available for $5 as well once this live uploads. Now, let me answer some of you guys' questions. I don't want to keep these live streams too long because I see I got a lot of questions about drop shipping. Okay, now y'all know drop shipping is not my calling, okay? The reason why drop shipping is not something that I offer, and it's not really the basis of my channel, but I realize it's a business model and I'm not going to ignore it just because I don't do it. The thing about drop shipping, if you want a more hands-off approach to selling hair, you should choose drop shipping. Now, you still have to make sure that once you go through the drop shipping process and the hair is priced a certain price that you determined from your research that your target demographic will probably buy from the price range, and you don't want to do the vendor search and all this kind of stuff, do drop shipping. Okay, if you want something a little more hands-off, do drop shipping. If you ain't got a lot of time to do all this stuff, if you don't want to package the hair yourself, if you don't want to ship the hair out yourself, do drop shipping. Okay, so that's something that you want to consider, because there's two bases of drop shipping. Either you're trying to start a drop shipping company yourself and bring people onto your company, or you are trying to get signed on, you're trying to get put on with a drop shipping company and they do all of this stuff for you. Now, there's different levels of drop shipping. Some will put their product, your product label and all of that. They'll send the product out to your customer. They'll do all that. Some of them even will set up a basic website for you as well. Not all of them do that. Some of them do that, and you pay a fee or something. All drop shipping companies do different things. So there's no blanket drop shipping. So whoever you choose, okay, make sure it's not a new company. Make sure it's not a fly-by-night drop shipping company. The reason why, and the reason why I don't offer drop shipping is because you need a team. I ain't got no team, okay? You need a team. You need an infrastructure to support shipping out all these orders, okay? So if it's a company that's been established, because there's logistics involved, okay? You got to ship the hair out once. Let's say you send XYZ dropshipping company your company information, and you told them that I have 3 orders I want sent out to South Carolina. They are going to have to ship the orders out to South Carolina in a timely fashion, because your customer does not know that you are drop shipping. Okay, that's the beauty of drop shipping. That's one of the positive things of drop shipping. They don't know that you're using Acme Drop Shipping Company. Okay, they don't know. They're not supposed to know that it's you. I mean, that you're doing this drop shipping thing. Your customer does not know this. They're not supposed to. It's supposed to be a smooth, streamlined thing. You give either on the website. Some people have websites. Some people, it depends. Every drop shipping company is different, but that's the basics of drop shipping. You give them the information, okay? And they bring that, they take that, and they send it off to somebody else, okay? Jennifer and Carla, and Cool Kid Chris. I see that those of you are talking about drop shipping. Now, I'm going to be real. I'm not going to recommend a drop shipping company. If you contact me, I am not going to recommend a drop shipping company. I would suggest those of you in the chat to not do that as well, because I don't want people to be swayed either way. Okay? I want people to do their own research. If you see a company on YouTube, if you see a company off YouTube, if you see one on Instagram, I would suggest you do your research, because there's logistics involved. Like with any business. And other businesses do drop shipping. There's a whole nother side of YouTube. They drop ship all kinds of stuff. Mugs, planners, books, all kinds of stuff. Weight loss pills, all kinds of stuff. Okay, so drop shipping is, if you ever heard of Amazon, FBA, I think I'm saying it right. A lot of people do that. A lot of people do that whole drop shipping model as well. Some people do, they get with AliExpress, because AliExpress can do drop shipping as well. So whoever you choose, that's a popular question. And I don't have a problem with drop shipping if you can find a company who has good quality hair, 1, that has the logistics down, 2, okay? Because it's supposed to be streamlined. You give the company your customer's information, they send the product out to your customer, okay? Your customer should be none the wiser. Your customer should not know that you're using a drop shipping company, okay? So I think Carla asked me that. I think Jennifer asked me that. And a couple of you asked me that. That's something that you're going to have to do your own research. Contact, and at the end of the day, contact these companies you're interested in and ask those questions. Okay? If you see somebody who, because somebody mentioned YouTube, if you see somebody that's offering that on YouTube, contact the person. Let's say you go in the comment section and the person, YouTube is changing. It used to be you could contact an actual person who made a comment. You could send them a message. I don't think you can do that anymore on YouTube, but you could at least try and ask them what their experiences were with that company. So at the end of the day, you have to do your research with drop shipping, because it's supposed to be a smooth, it's supposed to be smooth. You send the company your customer's information, and they send the hair out for you. Of course, they're not going to do that for free. Of course, they charge for that. So y'all going to have to do that research. But that's drop shipping is for people who don't want to do all this vendor searching and things like that. So that's why drop shipping exists. And, if you want to have a more hands-off experience with sending hair out, that's drop shipping versus you packaging your own hair and sending it out yourself. Okay? So that's something that you That's something that you have to do the logistics yourself. You're going to have to send it out through UPS yourself. Exactly. That's a monthly fee. So basically, at the end of the day, when you're pricing your hair, you have to consider all of those overhead charges, okay? So later on in the week, we'll talk about this topic a little bit more. I know someone asked me something about vendors. Let me see. Something about vendors. Here where they get their hair, they won't tell me. When I ask the women here where they get their hair from, they won't tell me. Yeah, that's a common thing. Again, if you want this information, it's available at thewealthyweavologist.com. It is $5, 5 at 5. Somebody mentioned websites. Carla, what are you referring to when you say websites? I'll do Q&A for about 15 more minutes because I don't want to keep y'all on here too long. Okay. Let's see. I saw something about I've been researching like no other, especially because I like things to be perfect. Now the only thing I'm missing is a good vendor. Everything else I basically have. That will come at time. How much should hair go for? Because in my city they sell hair for about $150 to $250 for bundles and closures, but when I get samples from vendors, their prices are way too low. Well, it depends on your target demographic because it's a balance. You have to think about quality and your prices, your bottom line. So I would say keep your overhead low. Keep your overhead low in the beginning so that when you price your hair for retail, you can stay at a decent price. Hopefully that makes sense. So fancy websites and things like that, you can have a website, but don't pay so much money for a lot of extra bells and whistles because in the beginning you just need to get the sales generated. A fancy website, because if you look at some of these websites, like I don't know if y'all saw my live, I looked at Extension Plus's website. Their website they charge $150 for 3 ounces of hair. If you saw their website, no shade to them, they're making sales, but their website is not all that, considering how much they charge for their hair. They focus more on marketing and things like that. So that's something that, because they have a target demographic and they've made that clear. They're selling hair to celebrities and stuff and women who want to be celebrities. So you saw that website, it was not all that compared to if you thought, okay, somebody charging $135 for 3, not 4 ounces, 3 ounces of hair, the website would be amazing. No, it's not amazing. It serves a purpose. Okay, you see the products, but that's about it. So keep your overhead low and you should be fine. I think drop shipping is lazy small business owner. It's lazy small business. Not necessarily. You know what? If you use drop shipping smart, if you're smart about the drop shipping model, if you hear about that, the whole, it's not, I don't want to say it's lazy per se, if you use it to your advantage, I would say. Now, I know a lot of times people want out of sight, out of mind, but if you can market, because again, the customer doesn't know that you're drop shipping, so if you can kind of find a way to market and keep up with the customers that you are selling to, if you can, then you can transition out of drop shipping and start your own business that way. But some drop shipping companies, it depends on the drop shipping company. It's kind of like when you're a hairstylist and you're working for a commission-based salon, they don't want you to take the customers with you. when you start booth renting or opening up your own salon, it's kind of like that kind of. But if you use it to your advantage, I'm not trying to tell y'all to do shady stuff, but if you can kind of find a way to transition up out of drop shipping, that would be to your advantage, actually. Hopefully you know what I'm saying. But that's something that I would say for those of you who absolutely want to do drop shipping, find a way to transition up out of drop shipping, because you can't do drop shipping forever, right? Yes, the best marketer does win. Let's see. Do we have any more questions? Because keep in mind, I'm going to talk about this topic the rest of the week. So for those of you who are interested in the ebook, and if my information that I've given you thus far has touched you, has helped you, has provided some clarity for you, I will try to do some more. I'm trying to integrate the price list, because that's something that people are still getting caught up on. I'm trying to decide how I'm going to show that to you guys live. But again, I don't want to make this live too long, but that's what we're going to go. That's what we're going to do. So basically tonight I talked about overhead. Okay, we talked about overhead, and we talked about the different things that would affect your overhead. Okay, so when we're talking about overhead, we are talking about all of our website fees. Our website fees, or hosting fees, or advertisement fees. Okay, or once you get bigger, your legal fees, your accounting fees. Okay. I thought about it but changed my mind completely. I wouldn't advise anybody to do it once I did my little research, because you're not profiting. Okay. But basically, write down tonight, because we're going to come back tomorrow night. Write down all your advertising fees, all your fees, all your overhead, monthly overhead. Then you want to think about your material costs. That's the main thing, your material costs. Look at those fine print. Some of these vendors are charging you $2, $3, $4 for little things like that, and it can add up. So the straight hair that's the price for the straight hair, but I guarantee you they're charging you for the loose wave, the deep wave, the kinky curly, the kinky straight, because like I said, this is Asian hair, it's bone straight, so they're going to charge you for that. Okay, those of you who want double drawn, single drawn, okay, double drawn, single drawn, it's more hair on double drawn, so they're going to charge you more for that. Did y'all know that? That's something you have to consider as well. So we'll talk about that later on tomorrow night as well. So you have to, your overhead costs, your material costs, okay, your bundle price, plus the PayPal fees, or the Western Union fees. But we're not going to use Western Union right now. But your Western Union fees, all those fees, okay. Then you have to consider your DHL, your UPS, to get to you, your acquisition of this hair. So them sending you the hair. So that's where a lot of people get caught up, and that's where the price gets messed up, because you might consider that, but you're not considering other things. How long would you say you should research? A year? Because this is a business at the end of the day. By the way, love the fact that you're so straightforward with this information. It depends. Again, your target demographic is going to change. So you might start out with a cheaper type of hair. Again, you don't want to get the cheapest of the cheap, but a lot of people want to sell raw hair. And a lot of times raw hair may be too expensive. Your customer may not purchase it right now because you're a new company. So it shouldn't take over 6 months. It depends on the amount of time you put into it, to be honest with you. But if you do a little bit every day and you contact a lot of vendors at one time, Those of you who took the course, you know, I always tell you to contact as many vendors as you can, because you're not going to sample from all these vendors, you guys. Some of these vendors you won't even contact ever again. So that's something to consider as well. So tomorrow I will continue on with this topic. Again, if you need any other information, that will be available on thewealthyweavologist.com. Again, wait for this video to upload, and I will put the information in the description box, and I'll also put the information on my website about the ebook concerning prices. And this will concern the terms, because as we go on during the week, I'm going to show you how to read a price list. Okay, I'm going to show you how to complete the formula. We got more stuff to talk about. Okay. All right. So on that note, I will see you guys tomorrow. Again, for those of you who just joined me, I will contact you guys. If you want to see, not contact you, but if you want to see the replay will be available for 24 hours. Again, any other information, by the time this uploads, you will see it in the description box. Okay, you guys? So I really appreciate those of you who stopped by today. Tomorrow, I will try to pop in again at 5 o'clock. I really appreciate those of you who also subscribe to my channel. And on that note, I will see you guys tomorrow at 5 o'clock. Bye, you guys.